Yes, I'm Steve Friedman, and I've been working at the Chinese University. Well, it's already a well-established program, so my role was to try to ascertain where I could best fit in and help them fine-tune their program, which has a long tradition, is very well established. And most of the work, when I arrived, they were very clear about there were certain topics that they felt that I would be able to assist them with. So I worked on helping many faculty develop outcomes for their courses, worked with the general education staff in developing outcomes for their program, and are now starting to get into the issues related to assessing those outcomes, and I suspect that'll be an ongoing challenge for them as this unfolds. It's the assessment question. It doesn't, how would we know it's a good program or not? The only way we'd know is if it's properly assessed. So that will be the ongoing challenge for them, and I think they're at different places. The other university that I've worked closely with is City University, and really more so lately because now the assessment questions are starting to be asked. But even before that, even before they could even ask those questions, their outcomes needed a lot of work. And the last couple of months, Susan and I have worked very closely with the City U staff, GE staff, to improve the outcomes, and now they're arriving at a point where they can start to ask some of these assessment questions. The only other university that I feel like I have more than a passing familiarity with where they're at is Lignon, and that Spencer Benson and I have done a series of workshops there focusing on outcomes and assessment. And they are asking the right questions. I see less evidence there in terms of, perhaps the fruits of my work compared to, say, City U or here. But they are on a path, I think, to improve their general education via assessment. I would comment primarily on my role here, though I think some of this applies to City U as well. Perhaps asking questions that they staff here are, while the GE program is well established, there may be questions that once you're on the inside that are perhaps not prone to be asked, that somebody from the outside can come in and ask the question, for example, in terms of the GE at Chinese U. There are 4 different colleges here. There are 4 different brands of general education across those 4 colleges. Some similarities, but some differences as well. So somebody from the outside can come in and say, what about these 4 colleges? We have university general education, but how do we understand the role of the colleges? It's a relatively small number of credits, but nonetheless, as long as there are credits assigned, there will be assessment questions asked of the colleges. And so we've had some good discussion about that. How does the general education experience of university students connect with the liberal studies, the new liberal studies at the secondary level? I've had a free hand to ask those kinds of questions, even though when I arrived that was not part of the laundry list. They were very clear about the kinds of things they wanted me to do. Those last 2 examples were not on the list, but I think that's the kind of thing that somebody in really, I guess I would say, an enviable position, because I come here and I'm going to be leaving. So I'm very free to, I think, ask those kinds of questions. And I think sometimes the response was, well, that's an interesting idea, but there's really not much we can do about that now. Other times, the idea was spawned more discussion, perhaps a meeting. So in that sense, I think change. They're the ones that are going to have to make the change. and in fact, I'm not sure I've ever really liked the phrase change agent. I think from the outside, I think I can suggest ideas, but as far as the actual change, they're going to have to do that. And hopefully there have been some questions raised that might nudge them in directions that they might not have otherwise gone.